Hey, good evening, everyone, wherever you're listening from. Lagos, Abuja, New York, wherever you're listening from. Welcome to another Spaces with me, Kalu. This is the Money Space with me. And over in the next 2 or 3 hours, we're going to be talking money, the economy, finance. How do those topics affect your wallet? Want to make it personal to you? Want to educate as well as uplift, leaving you better off when you came in. Today we have, should we say, a special edition. I have the guys from BudgIT. I don't know if you know them, BudgIT and Tracka. They've been doing excellent work in the Nigerian public space, tracking where your money, your tax money is going to, giving you with good infographics what the government, what the subnationals, what the local governments are doing with your money. I follow them, and if you guys listen to me, I always say follow Tracker. They are here on the space. You can see them right there. Follow them. What they do is they go in and they track allocations made by the governments to subnational, to the federal government, and they track it to the actual implementation stage. Has it been done? Where did the money go to? What has happened so far? That's what they do. So that's just your own way of putting pressure, right? And ensuring that the tax that you are paying is judiciously used. We can't really do complaints. Complaints are just hot air. And some of us might not want to go out to the streets. I get it. But when you look at folks like Tracker, they are doing the job for you. And all they want from you is to spread the information. If more tax spenders know that when a budget is passed, the ordinary Nigerian is going to track the implementation, there's going to be better commitment to invest that money appropriately. So the least you can do, guys, is to follow them, retweet, also help them. If you live in a local government and there's a project there, go and take pictures and send to them and say, hey, this is my local government. This project was appropriate in the budget. It hasn't been done. That's your own way of being a citizen. I've got Mr. Olushego as a listener. I've also got Tracker as a listener. I really want to get them on board to the space. So, guys, please request to speak. I'll add you. We can do our introductions and we can get right onto the topic of the day. We're talking the state of the state report. If you just go on my handle, I posted the link to the report. Also, go to BudgIT's handle. You can also get the link to the report as well. It's very detailed, lots of infographics talking about health, IGR, GDP, how the states are essentially doing. And I like it because it's subnational. We most times tend to focus on the federal government, right? But this is subnational. So we're also focusing on the states per se, right? What are the states doing with the funds? That's essentially why I like this. And why I want to bring them in for us to talk and essentially know what's happening in our own states. Mr. Olusegun, Mr. Olusegun, sorry about that. Let me have you just unmute to introduce yourself. Tell us about BudgIT and Tracker, and then we can take it from there. Welcome, sir.
Thank you so much, Carlo, and thanks so much for doing this. Really excited that active citizens, private citizens can take the initiative um, to understand the primacy and importance of our work when we use their space and their platforms to distribute it effectively. I will just share a little bit about budget. A few people here might know about us, and people here might not even know about us. But we started in 2011, which means we've been running for around 12 years, focused on civic engagement, fiscal accountability, public sector efficiency. Those are like the three critical elements of our work. Our work is to engage citizens and ensuring they have the required information to hold government accountable. Is to show them a part of fiscal accountability, which means we must use the information that we have made available to them to hold government accounts. And thirdly, showing efficiency, we critical about the public resources must be efficiently spent. That will require citizens making significant demands of that system. We work in 5 key areas. One is budget access and research. So anybody that knows about budget, a chunk of people will know that we work on public budgets. That's like our major goal. That's our major role. We also work on service delivery management, which is Tracka, ensuring that roads, schools, hospitals, clinics, whatever it is built, and track that to the end, and constantly bring it into the awareness of public servants. Third is a natural resource governance and climate financing, which we worked with the team recently. So we also care about funds into NNPC until they turn private, private in quotes, as we know. Then we also work on climate financing as a team, make sure that funds are accountable in that regard. The fourth part of our work is focused on strengthening health systems. We care a lot about healthcare. So we built a platform called Tracka.org. I would share the links to all of these platforms as we go along the way. So pht.tracka.org, we created this platform to build conversation as much as possible around the primary healthcare system. And the last part is institutional engagement. Support governments. Some governments that we think want to be efficient, want to be forward-looking, we help them to improve their work and engagement with citizens. So that's a brief summary. We have offices not just in Nigeria, Ghana, Sierra Leone, Liberia, and Senegal. We also have like a small outpost in the US to coordinate our international team. So let me leave it at that so I don't hog the space too much.
Just a quick one for you, right? Is what you guys do in the other countries, is it the same as you do in Nigeria? Like if you're in Senegal, is it the same thing you do there? Like you track the government spending in Senegal, almost the same thing, or it's different?
It's a little different. The German market for us is mature. We've been here for about 12 years. So most of the other countries were relatively 2 years in. So we take a whole year to understand the space. So we don't do programming for a year. We try and do some form of citizen engagement, awareness survey. We're still doing that in Senegal and in US currently. But in Ghana, we focus more on healthcare and natural resource governance. In Sierra Leone and Liberia, it's on healthcare and public budgeting. Whereas in Senegal, we're not yet certain of what to do. Even in the US, we're still testing. So it's not a one-fit-size approach.
Gotcha. What about Tracka? Is Tracka going to come on air, or what's the plan?
Let me allow them to come on air.
Tracka, I mean, I'm a big fan. Like I said, I'm a huge fan. I mean, there's a story I can tell everyone listening where there's a particular guy was in Lagos State where he would go and print out what his local government got on an allocation, because it's online. You can print it out, and he will go and paste that allocation all over the local government. And after people at first laughed at him, but after people were like, wait, so this guy's getting 100 million a month, 100 million a month. Then people start to ask questions. It got to the stage where the local government would be like, hey, go and fix his road. Then just come and cause trouble here. Just the simple act of printing out the allocation. See, these things work. Don't throw them away and say it will never work. We're like wasting our time. It works to hold people to account with data, which is what Tracka is doing. Tracka, please come on air, introduce yourself, and just let us know what you do as well.
Hello, good evening, everyone. My name is Ayomide Ladipo. I'm currently the team lead at Tracka. Thank you so much, Kalu. You are a big supporter. We see you talk about our work and everything. Thank you so much. And I agree with what you say. We recently were in Abuja. There was a guy from Kano that told us that he knew a guy personally who used to criticize the government in Kano and do all the criticisms, and they did not pay attention to him. But once he signed up and started using the FAC allocations that his local government was getting, I think it was National LG in Kano, and they started saying that he was using numbers and figures to back up what he's saying, and what he was saying was true. And they had to call him after like 2-3 months. They now called him, come, you this man, what are you talking about? What exactly do you want us to do for you? we'll add you to one of these empowerment programs. You too should become a beneficiary. And so it's one of those things where you see that people think that, oh, the government is corrupt, everything has faults, there's nothing we can do. But actually, they listen. We say that the political class, they're online. Either you want to use online or offline advocacy, they're online, they're seeing. And when they see that you are not just shouting, oh, they are stealing our money, they are corrupt, you are using data and figures, you are using facts to back up what you are saying, they start to pick interest. And sometimes it's a journey that takes I like to say it's a journey, it's a marathon, not a sprint. So it does not mean that when you talk today to change, but they start listening and they start knowing that somebody is monitoring them. And so it forms the bedrock of their decisions. We've been in rooms where they'll be like, somebody called us from an agency and we're like, they received our letter and they would like us to come and they will give us all the information we want because we have been seeing you online or the way you have been attacking these people. We don't want you to come and attack us. And so we say that if it's more like a class action from citizens, everybody is putting their back, their efforts, their energy behind everything. We are going to get the government to listen to us more. And even if it's only 10% of what we are asking them to do, that they do, that is going to go a long way for us to be able to ask for another 10% and start moving like that. Thank you so much.
Well said. Yeah, well said. I mean, we all have to do something. And I know many folks complain, but they don't want to go out. I get it. But just follow Tracka, see the project that they are tracking, retweet it. That's it. If you have a local government, you see a road, it's not being done, take a picture, send to them. Go to your budget, pull up what the governments are going to invest in. Track that project yourself in your own local government. Take a picture, send. It works, guys. It does work. So less complaints, more action, put their feet to the fire. It does work. But Sean, let me come back to you. Let's talk about this state of the states report. What's it all about? Highlight it. What are you guys trying to achieve with the report? And how long have you guys done this report? And are you actually getting traction with what you're going to achieve when you publish the first one?
All right. Maybe I'll beg that there's a guy in the part of the listeners is Indi Hussein. Maybe help me look for him. Maybe you should request.
Yeah,
because he's our head of research, and I'm sure he will do greater justice than me. But I'll give you a little bit of background. In 2015, 15 is when we started to work on state of states, and it was clear to us then. The imperative was simple. There was a challenge in getting state budgets, state data back then. In fact, we had one of our staff arrested in trying to get a state budget. I think it was in Delta State. And so whenever we ask questions about budgets, people just don't want to answer us. So we said, okay, since we don't have state budgets, we could at least start some fiscal performance rating to check what is the viability of a state. When we say we look at the states, how are we certain that state has the financial muscle to withstand shocks, or what are the vulnerabilities of a state? And when we look at the fiscal terms like budget, IGR, revenue, expenditure, we're spending too much, we spend too small, what's the quality of their spend? So we started in 2015, supported heavily by Gates Foundation. They've been backing us since then. And the work has been simple: brand fit and the fiscal health and performance of states. And we've seen we've changed methodologies. At least I think from the third iteration of our methodology, we and World Bank, BudgIT and World Bank work on validating the methodology together. So we go through a whole laborious process of ensuring that methodology is solid. So that's the second part of the work. And the interesting part is that we've had issues with state government. I remember the state of state for last year, there was a governor in Southwest, maybe the state closest to Lagos, and he went on and on. He put us on the IGR figures, and we're just saying that we didn't plug an IGR figure from the air. We used what you have in your audited statement. I mean, you could declare anything to MBS, but we're working with what was in your audited report. So we've had even states commending us, taking like a badge of honor. Some states push back a bit, like I said, that this does not represent facts. But we say this is our methodology, and this is what we do. And I think the whole purpose is that it was much more important. It was much more useful when the oil price shocks happened in 2015. I mean, it was already sharp happening in late 2014, but 2015 became heavily pronounced. And states now felt, a lot of states, I mean, 24 out of 36 states were not able to pay salaries for a period of 6 months. So it was clear that state viability is a big issue. Subnational fiscal health is a big issue in the country. The federal government can print its way out of it, it could borrow its way out of it as a sovereign, but states have limited capabilities in doing this. And in recent times, it's also been helpful for us to tell states to know that most external debt will be repriced with the dollar value, which we know that its currency is being devaluated, and some other insights like that. But I think the best person that will give an insight well in state of state is Inye Hussein, who's our head of research.
And Ini is right here. So Ini, you've got the floor, the mandate. Go for it. I mean, talk to us about this report, right? What should we look at? Why is it important? It starts off with fiscal sustainability. What does that actually mean?
All right, cool. We will take you on. But I think we also, beyond the report itself, we also do thematic analysis. So over the years, we've looked at exports. If feminists sat down and look at our report over the years, we sat down and broken down what should states do in terms of export. What are state capabilities in terms of investing in health? We've looked at productivity level at state. We've looked at operational cost at state. So beyond us to the ranking, that's why we have like close to 800 word piece on every state, because we also dive heavily into what exactly we should be looking at. Very so, but this year was about investment in health, and that was really tough for national productivity. I will leave that to Neil. Yeah.
All right, thanks so much. I was going to ask that why health, but if you sort of touched on that, so go ahead, sir. Go ahead, Amy.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Kalu. I mean, for putting together these cases. I mean, I'm an avid follower of your work on Twitter around, finance, and I'm happy to participate and also speak. I know earlier on, Sean had spoken about the early days of state of states, where it was difficult for us to get actual data to work with, and we had to rely on budgets. And as you know, with budgets are just projections of how governments intend to raise and spend revenues, and the budgets do not really give you a true picture of how government is spending resources. It shows a snippet of how government intends to allocate resources, but of course you cannot spend what you do not have. And so by 2020, when states began to release their audited financial statements, it gave us a real opportunity to now look exactly at what states were prioritizing. You asked the question earlier, what we try to look at when we try to measure the fiscal sustainability of states. Summary is just to check the viability of states. So if these states were to exist theoretically as independent states, how would they fare? Would they run bankrupt, or would they be able to run the state with what they're able to generate internally as states? What does this debt sustainability profile of the state look like? And so, we've had to iterate the methodology 3 times now with more data available. So currently we have about 5 indexes that we use to measure the states. The first index, which is the index A, we try to see how states are able to meet their operating expenses with what they are only able to generate internally, what we generally call IGR. And when we look at operating expenses, we are looking at the personnel costs. That's what they pay as salaries, what they pay as pension, and other benefits. We look at overheads, of course. Overhead costs usually forms a very critical component of the cost of running government. And thirdly, we look at the interest on loans, because as you know, the loans are usually non-reputable or reputable transfers, meaning that regardless of how much you earn, you must, service loans and pay them back when they are due. And so the interest, you would often pay on those loans form your operating expenses. So whether you like it or not in a year, you must pay salaries, you must pay pensions. Even if now states have made it optional to pay pensions and salaries, but ideally, whether you like it or not, you must pay salaries, you must pay pensions, you must, run government as the case may be, and then you must service your loans. You can decide whether this year there's not enough money to build a road or build a school, and government will still run. But these other components are what form operating expenses. So we try to see in that indexing how the capacity of the state to meet that must do, which is the operating expenses, with what you are able to generate internally. As if you don't add what comes from the federal government as federal transfers, whether it's statutory allocation or whether it's the VAT, or whether it's for states that are all producing, whether it's the 13% derivation, or for in years where there are things like the Paris Club refund, or bailouts that have been given to states. All these we categorize as federal transfers to the states. For the second index, we now say, okay, aside your IGR, if you now add these federal transfers that I had mentioned, and you add aids and grants, which states benefit from each year. How are you able to meet your operating expenses and your loan repayments obligations with your total revenue? Is it enough, right, to meet your operating expenses and your loan repayment? That's your index B. Sorry, I skipped an index A1, which is basically how we try to see how states are growing their IHR year on year. So what efforts have states made, right, in the last 12 months to grow their IGR? And so we try to also measure states in that regard. Then for index C, the index C it tries to look at the debt sustainability of the states. And we try to marry four, small indexes to make it a composite index. We look at what the debt to GDP is, what the debt to revenue is, what the debt service to revenue is, and then what the personnel cost you as a percentage of the revenue is. And it will be shocking that for one state, 60% of the state's revenue was used, for personnel costs. And so you are left wondering, so what is left for you, to service your overheads? Gotcha. What is left for you to use to service your debts, which is your interest on loans? Then, to now talk of what is left for your capital expenditure. And so it sort of gives you a sense of where states are, what the standings of states are in that regard. Then let me ask you a question before you hop off. Finally, we try to see how states are prioritizing capital expenditure over their recurrence. I'll leave it here for now. Okay, and just a quick question, right? When we have the state's performance on Index A, I see Lagos, Rivers, Kaduna, Ogun, and Anambra. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So does it mean that means that Lagos, based on what does it mean? If I see Lagos at 0.63 and Anambra at 1.68, what does it mean? Yeah, so what it means is that Lagos was able to raise enough revenues internally, that's their IGR, such that they required only 63% or 0.6 of their total revenue to service their operating expense. So what that tells you is the state is able to raise more than enough to meet their operating expense. Comparatively, for states like Zamfara and Bayelsa, Zamfara, for instance, Zamfara required more than 10 times what it generated internally to meet its operating expense. So that tells you that the state would need to borrow, to even meet its operating expense, not to now talk of the other things like overheads or to now talk of capex. That's why you see that for some states, all they do in a particular year is just to pay salaries. Because they're not even able to, generate enough revenues if you even add what comes from the federal government as federal transfers. Like when we go to Index B, you would see. So like for Index B, even after adding, the federal transfers, the ITR, and grants, aids and grants.
Yeah.
That three of them put together was still not enough to take care of their operating expenses and their loan repayments, meaning that they had to still borrow to service some parts of their loans. And of course, the entirety of CapEx borrowings, was needed to fund their capital expenditure, as the case may be.
So Index B captures, Index A is only IGR, Index B is IGR.
Index B is looking at what you are able to do with regards to your total revenue, which is made up of your IGR, the federal transfers of FAC, as the case may be, and aids and grants, how that is able to meet your operating expenses and your loan repayments.
Very interesting. Let me pick a state here. Ebonyi State in Index A is nowhere. Ebonyi State doesn't show up really anywhere in Index A. When you go to Index B, Ebonyi is number 2, 0.44. So what does that mean? Is that Ebonyi State is borrowing or has gotten aid? What does that mean that Ebonyi State is there and Lagos State has fallen off?
What that means is that Ebonyi got a lot from FAC and from aids and grants. I was able to generate enough to be able to take care of its operating expenses. Alternatively, what it can also mean is that it was able to grow its IGR more than it did increase its operating expense. So it's two ways. It's either you are trying to reduce your operating expense or you are growing your IGR to be able to meet your operating expense. I don't know if it makes sense.
Makes sense to me. So I've argued, I'm sorry, we're going to do a bit of this, then I'm going to go into the state by state, if you don't mind. Just on the last point on this, the IGR figure itself, just unattached itself, would of course show Lagos, Rivers, the normal culprit, right? But I like the chart you guys did when you attach the IGR to the GDP. And when you attach the IGR to GDP, we now have Rivers, Kwara, Ogun, Enugu, and Kaduna. So let's talk. I know Rivers. I get Rivers. What about Kwara? So you are saying that why is Kwara there number 2? Let's talk about Kwara.
So if you are looking at the IGR to GDP ratio, it's sort of denoting the capacity of the state to access its economy, right? So basically, if you are looking at as an economy, what are you able to generate from the economic activities happening in that your economy? And so why you see the figures very low is because even if a lot of citizens are paying, in some cases, you call it taxes, in most cases, they are nuisance levies because in a way, these funds don't find their way to the coffers of the states. There are middlemen who get this money from whether it's the artisans, whether it's the market women, whether it's the transporters, keke riders. But then there's no channel for that money to find its way to the coffers of the states. And so regardless of the quantum of economic activities in that state, if you measure it vis-a-vis what the state is able to make, whether as tax or non-tax revenue, there's a mismatch. It doesn't tell you're not able to see how those economic activities have translated into more revenues for the states. And so if you look at it from that lens, you begin to see areas where states need to improve in terms of, adequately or efficiently collecting. Now, I'm not going to use taxing, collecting, because as it is, a lot of people are already paying enough, but then they are paying to the wrong people. And so governments will now need to reform around how they efficiently collect, these revenues and, are able to now use that in, solving a lot of these societal problems that do exist.
Let me bring in Tracka back. Let me bring Tracka back in here. And is there a relationship with these figures where we have GDP per capita per state ranking and the efficiency of the state government in implementing projects? Do we see a correlation? For instance, is Quara Tracker? Do you see that Quara State is should we say now implementing its project on the budget? Does that show up, or do we see states just make a lot of IGR but projects don't get done? Tracker, do you have any correlation on that?
So I would like to say that sadly we don't really have the full picture of that because we do not track state-funded projects. And why? Because the information is not readily available. So if we wanted to get information on the projects that states are to implement every year, we will have to start lobbying from each state, every state to get the data. So we always focus our efforts on the budget that is readily available to the public, which is the federal government projects. But sometimes this data also reflects in some things that we see. For instance, we are launching our 2022 project tracking report on November 8th. And we've been able to also comparatively review what sectors receive the most allocation, even though they are federal government implemented projects in the state. And for instance, for a state like Kwara, we saw that there were no education projects in the ERCP. So there are about 300 projects and none is tied to education. And so we have some states that also there are a lot, like Ebonyi as well. In our tracking terrain, we've seen that a big issue that the state has is the people have is access to clean water, probably because of the terrain of the state. And there are no water-related projects in their constituency projects.
This is Ebonyi. This is Ebonyi you're talking about. Oh.
Yes, this is Ebonyi. Yes.
So let me just.
So these are the things that we also want to put out that even if these sectors are not necessarily federal government responsibility, when there are interventions like this from the federal government, they should prioritize what the pain points of the states. So for this one, saying the state's capacity to for their IGR to meet their operating expenses or their capital expenditure, we cannot really say because we don't really track subnational projects at a large scale the way we track federal government projects.
And just to recap what you just said, so in Ebonyi State, lots of projects, but no water project, which is the pain point of the citizens of Ebonyi State. But the state is going to spend 50 million United States dollars on an airport. 50 million United States dollars on an airport. Just putting it out. And again, you talked about Quara. You said there was no education. Could you just touch on that again?
So, for instance, in the ZIP project, in the consultancy project, these are also ZIP, Zonal Intervention Projects. There are no projects on education. We have Quara, Plateau, and Sokoto. They have no projects on education. And one of the things we found out also is that for empowerment projects, there's a lot of emphasis on empowerment projects for all the states. So it's like the federal government, even with the capital projects, now before we didn't used to see a lot of empowerment projects in the capital projects, it just used to be in the ZIPs. But in the last 4 or 5 years, empowerment projects have been really seeping into the ERGPs. So you have that the federal government is funding, let's say, grants to cooperative societies with 200 million, and even the budget line item is very obscure. You don't know where exactly is receiving these funds. Where is it going to? So these are some of the issues that we have been able to pinpoint that we'll be talking about also in the reports that we'll be launching.
Okay, and the last one, before I go back to Ini, go ahead. Ini, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to comment. Additionally, and this is because we have also done some work around budget credibility, which basically tries to look at how governments are able to accurately and consistently project and spend revenues as the case may be. We've seen that there's a weak correlation between, availability of revenues and implementation of projects. Governments will often spend on things that they prioritize. Oftentimes than not, when you see the weak implementation of projects that directly affect the masses, the excuse you would often get from government is that, revenues are not available. But we found out that in practice, government would always find money to spend on whatever it is it considers priority. If it's an airport, like you had mentioned earlier, it would build it. If it's an international conference center, he would find money to build it. If it's in an international worship center, he will always find money to build it. So when you usually get these excuses is when it's a school that the child of a poor man will attend, or a healthcare center that the child of a poor man would benefit. I mean, look at what happened with the last administration. It cost the federal government over 21 billion naira to build the clinic that's the State House Clinic. And if you look at the National Primary Healthcare Development Agency, that is, saddled with the responsibility of taking care of over 30,000 primary healthcare centers across the federation. Cumulatively, the budget for that was not up to that 21 billion naira. So what does that tell you? There is a prioritization problem. You finish the State House Clinic, but if you look at the state of primary healthcare centers across board, there's still a lot left to be desired.
We have to say it again because you are saying it very fast. People didn't already hear you. What you're saying is that the funds allocated to build one hospital for the president was more than the funds used to build hospitals across the federation. Could you give us those figures again one more time, please?
Yeah. So I said the State House Clinic, the budget for the State House Clinic cumulatively was over 21 billion naira. And the budget for the National Primary Healthcare Development Agency, the government agency saddled with the responsibility of catering to over 30,000 primary healthcare centers, across the length and breadth of the federation. Cumulatively, their budget wasn't up to, the capex budget wasn't up to 21 billion.
Wow.
But that clinic was commissioned, by the last president before he left office.
Wow.
Now, compare that clinic to the state of primary healthcare centers, right, across the length and breadth of the federation. And that tells you what that government prioritized. If you even look at healthcare. And so that is what we see replicates across the board. It would interest you to know that, for some states, and I'll use one state, as an example, Anambra State. We looked at the budget execution because I'm now trying to move away from saying budget performance, because just spending money does not mean that you have performed. So let's use the word execution. If you look at the budget execution for Anambra in 2021, you will see that they spent way and above what was appropriated for the airports in the year, in the 2020-2021 year. But if you go and look at what was allocated to their state's primary healthcare development board, it was less than 20% of their capex budget. And for the airport, it was over 15 billion, that was spent. For the budget for the primary healthcare development board was less than 500 million. And if you look at the implementation, it was still not up to 20%. So you cannot now say that the reason why you did not implement that budget was for lack of funds. It was that you prioritized an airport over the healthcare of the over 2 or 3 million citizens that you have in your state. So it's largely a prioritization problem more than it is a revenue problem.
So in effect, just to recap, Anambra State spent more by proportion on an airport than they spent to educate the citizens of Anambra State. This is a choice that the states made to spend more on an airport than the education of the citizens. Same with Ebonyi and all that. I mean, it goes back to, I remember when Mr. Sheung had called on a space, and the question was, does Nigeria have a spending or revenue problem? And I always say Nigeria has a spending problem. It's not a revenue. And you've given us the facts and the numbers to back it up. Nigeria has a spending problem. It's a choice to spend it at the airport than the education of children. And we make that choice every quarter We do it, and then we say there's no revenues. I think so. Facts and figures, guys, have been this debate is settled. We have a spending problem in Nigeria, not really a revenue problem. If we got more revenues, would have built a bigger airport. That's what I hear. Mr. Sean, just to come back to you before I dive into the state by state performance, I just want to highlight a few states. You mentioned that this report was based on health. Why health? I know Shane is still there. If it's not there, I'm going to ask Ini to take that question. Ini, if Shane is not there, why health?
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, Shane, go ahead. Sorry about that. Yeah.
Okay, maybe will be better, but I would just say we've gone through different thematic view. But first, I will say on two principles. We have a new strategy, and part of our new strategy is social sector accountability. We're really, really big on social sector accountability. So we wanted to look at health and education, and we're more specific. Second, it was also because we were looking about health. We say that people treat health like a social expense, whereas it's more like an investment in terms of productivity of the country. It's the same way you invest in roads, bridges, schools, maybe roads. We don't think that health is also like an investment, and we wanted to keep it that way. So, but both that's around different things. Like I said, export, productivity, investment in education. But I think this time we just feel like with the whole pandemic fallout, we have to zoom in much more on that. But but I have a better answer than that. Yeah.
Gotcha. But please go ahead and tell them. From now on, we're going to two states. I want to do 2 states or 3, but 2 states on my mind. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. So, we decided to look for, a thematic area that, that also speaks to, a lot of the interests of persons in office at the moment. Now, anybody in government now will tell you that they have a revenue problem. They are trying to see how they can raise revenues. There's not enough revenue to, spend on government programs and projects. But what they fail to see is that there's a direct correlation, a very strong correlation between health and education outcomes and economic development or economic growth, as the case may be. And studies have shown, right, that for countries that have better educational outcomes, better health outcomes, you would see that, that correlation between that and their economic growth. And so you cannot tax, a sick population. You can only tax a population that is healthy enough to look for work, find work, and work. And so if you maintain the focus on health, you do not see all the other contributing factors that, add to productivity. If you look at the numbers today, as at the last count, which was 2021, when the UNICEF Multi-Cluster Indicator Survey was done, 1 in every 10 child born in this country does not live to see their 5th birthday. If you look at maternal mortality, as the case may be, 70% of Nigerian women, right, suffer from, during pregnancy, suffer from anemia, which is the low iron count. And oftentimes than not, that's what is usually, largely responsible for hemorrhage, postpartum hemorrhage, which often leads to the death of pregnant women. And so these things keep happening, and you are not looking for a way to address these things. So that women who in a lot of, communities across the Federation, rural communities, have often also found themselves to be breadwinners of their homes, are lost during childbirth. So there's a strong correlation between health, nutrition, education, and economic development. And so states need to begin to see that investments in these areas over time would, result in a productive population that you can now tax, and raise the revenues, which you have made your primary, purpose coming into office at the moment.
So that's a good point. I've never really looked at health as tying health into what's it called, economic growth. I've always looked at education, but not really health. So if you could emphasize that, you're emphasizing that is new to me, that health itself should also be taken as an investment, not just education. in terms of growing GDP per capita of the state. So good point you raised there, Ini. I not to be honest, look at it that way before. Okay, Ini.
So actually, it was sort of estimated that if we were not able to address Ebola when it happened, right, and it was able to permeate our health system, we would have lost 2% of our GDP to Ebola. And so what does that tell you? Ebola was addressed, this sort of disease outbreaks are usually identified at the what we call primary health care centers, because the local health centers, when these outbreaks happen in communities that are first respondents to these kinds of cases. And so if these centers do not have the capacity to detect, to prevent, detect, and respond to disease outbreaks, you have this sort of disease outbreaks, spread, among the population. And a lockdown like it happened in 2020 becomes imminent. And so what happens to your economy in light of that? So that's why it's important that states, the federal government, prioritize health security. There's a very, very strong link between your capacity to respond, to detect, to disease outbreaks, and your economy as the case may be. I was really clear on that.
Gotcha. Okay, so I think I have Tracka back. Let's talk about some states. I want to talk about, of course, I'm biased, so I want to talk about Abia State. I want to talk about Lagos State, where I live, just to highlight the report itself before we go to the infographics. The infographics are packed. But if we look at Abia State, the first thing I see here is overall fiscal performance rank of 15 out of 36. It says debt sustainability rank 30 out of 36. So does that mean that in terms of debt sustainability, Abia is really in a bad spot? We are 30 out of 36. Is that what it means? Did I lose any?
So, comparatively, if you look at how the states perform, across all the 4 main industries that look at debt sustainability, quite a number of them are still, the bulk of them are still below the recommended thresholds for those 4 indexes, right? What do I mean by threshold? So for like the personnel cost to revenue, it's recommended that it should not be more, your personnel costs should not be more than 60% of your revenue. Your debt to total revenue should not be more than 200%. So we have those thresholds for the 4 different indexes. But looking at the debt profiles of the states, what we even choose to focus on, beyond the ranking, is to even look at states that have a large quantum of dollar-denominated debt and situate that within the current foreign exchange regime. And I'll use Lagos for instance, because the foreign debt of Lagos State, as it is, as at December 31st, 2022, was more than the cumulative foreign debt of 24 states. And so, by the dollar, losing its value from 440 naira to 771 naira when we did the study, Lagos State, without even acquiring any additional dollar-denominated debt, had grew its foreign debt by more than 300 billion. And so that sort of tells you that for states, that are quick or have an appetite for acquiring dollar-denominated debts, they might need to check it, especially within the context of the current foreign exchange regime.
And the 5 states there are Lagos with 1.25 billion. Then you have Kaduna, Edo, Cross River, and Bauchi.
That's correct.
What is Bauchi doing borrowing in foreign currency? What is Cross River doing borrowing? Edo has got crude oil. Kaduna, what's Kaduna doing borrowing in forex? Kaduna is 573 million foreign debt. Does this include their steel plant? Where is the money going to? Does Tracka have an answer where this foreign debt for Kaduna, for Cross River, for Bauchi is going to? Do we have a sense?
So we do not have a sense of, and this is not just even with mostly with the state governments, we do not have a sense of what exactly, these foreign loans are used for, except for the project-side loans. There are some project-side loans that that's okay. You are getting them for specific projects, but more broadly, a lot of times borrowings are not tied to specific projects. So the states can borrow to buy cars for House of Assembly members. The states can borrow to build an international worship center if that's what it considers priority. And that's a problem. The state can even borrow to fund the pilgrimage of some of its citizens, as we have seen in a number of states that are unable to invest adequately in health and education, but are able to gather up enough resources to fund the pilgrimage needs of their citizens, which circles back to the issue around prioritization.
Can if you allow me answer a little bit of that question?
Yeah, please go ahead.
So,
So
so I know for CrossFit, one of their public foreign debt is the legacy of Tinapa. You hope that CrossFit has traditionally had a high foreign debt, in top 3 for them. Recently it's top 5. So they've been there. For Kaduna, it was the every 5 years. They also had some borrowing that they took previously, pre-RFI period, for Zaria Water Scheme project. I know that if you remember, there was a spat in the National Assembly between the former Senator Shehu Sani and the previous governor on that the foreign, because let's not forget that every foreign debt is 86 must be approved by the National Assembly. So there was a pushback that some of the senators in Kaduna pushed back, including Shehu Sani. I think that was part of the spat in their politically. But Kaduna also took some size. If you look at the numbers, to some sizable foreign debt. I think most of them was from the Islamic Bank, some of them from AFDB. If you also look at Lagos, yes, Lagos has traditionally always had huge foreign debt. World Bank, most types of foreign debt. Bauchi is the one that's shown in recently. I'm also not yet understanding what Bauchi borrows from, because we must not realize that state governments don't earn in FX, even if federal allocation is being shared in naira. It is shared by federation revenue. They don't get their own part of the revenue in FX. So definitely these will have huge cost, huge impact on their repayments, because they will have to be paying back in naira. So it's very, very important and instructive that citizens pay extra attention. Because if the state government borrows so much in foreign debt, and maybe it's something of short tenure, that they have to pay back quickly or high interest rates, there will be challenges for a new government that comes in into play to be able to perform at all. And that's one of the silent reside field. Tinapa was abandoned because state paying a huge debt and they were not ready to further invest in it, even though that was from our own senseless move.
Gotcha. We can debate Tinapa, but look at the total debt, like total debt. Lagos, I understand Lagos 1.3 trillion, but Kaduna is second in Nigeria in terms of total debt. Kaduna, 241 billion. The others, Ogun, I get Ogun, Delta, I get the Cross River, Rivers, Akwa Ibom, Edo, Imo. These are all oil producing states. I get it. But what's Kaduna doing with 341 billion? This is total debt now across both local and foreign. It will be interesting to see what they did with this fund. The states can say yes, both foreign and local. We've gotten a good bang for our buck. To say it's interesting all the same. Where I want to talk again now was on the total revenue growth. Now we'll talk about the debt. Let's talk about revenue. And again, we're going to talk on the infographics, the subnationals together. Total revenue growth. This is one that I want to pick your mind on. Bayelsa State has gotten the total, that is number one in terms of top total revenue growth, 62%. But I did see a chart here when you talk about Bayelsa State in terms of their sustainability with FARC and what they earn, they are very, very low down the ladder. So what's happening in Bayelsa? Small state, small population. What's going on in that state? Could you just perhaps give some light why you think why it is so their revenues from crude oil cannot fund the state without them borrowing. I mean, they're like maybe three people in Bielsa, if I should say that.
Yeah, thank you. So, I mean, for Bielsa State, the bulk of the revenue, comes from the 13% derivation. They are not doing too well on their internally generated revenue. They also have a relatively high operating expense. And so that's why, what we attribute to the growth is largely, dependent on what they got as 13% derivation. And they have made the case, that 13% derivation be considered IGR, because if there was resource control, probably that's money that should have accrued to the state if the companies were dealing directly with the state. But our methodology does not allow us consider federal transfers, because we think it's of no sort of effort of yours that you are earning that much. It's just by the mere fact that you have oil underneath your ground that you are benefiting from that 13%. So at this point, maybe later on, when we think that it's robust enough for us to consider it, we can do that. So, but at this point in time, we are not able to consider that as, part of the IGR. And so what you now see is that the state had or has a very high dependence on tax revenue or federal transfers. So in a year like COVID, for instance, where the taps were short, if that had happened for the whole year, it means a state like Bielsa would have been bankrupt, because there wasn't going to be revenues from oil activities to fund the budget of that particular state. And so one of the key messaging we always have in the state of state year on year is that states, need to, develop or improve their domestic resource mobilization capacity to wean themselves off the dependence on federal transfers. And something happened with, the Kaduna the previous administration of Kaduna. In a conversation with the former IRS chairman, they have done a lot of reforms around their tax regime, running considerably well in the last few years. And he mentioned something that struck me, that the tax goal of the states is such that they want to grow it to a point where they would attend FAC meetings out of respect and not out of necessity. And so what that tells you is that in the aim of the state is such that they want to be able to grow their revenues internally to a point where whatever comes from FAC is seen as an addition, right? That you can now use to implement other programs. And I think that that's something that every state should aspire to.
Makes sense. Let me just ask Tracka. Tracka, how are you guys able to track projects in, say, riverine states like Bielsa, that they have to go on a boat, or even states like the desert states like Yobe, where you have to go like miles on a camel to local government? How hard is this? And do you need citizens to basically assist you in tracking this project in hard to reach places? Is this something that you think would make your job more, should we say, easier in quote, if you got that citizens portal or something like that?
Okay, thank you so much. We currently have a program called the Community Champions Program, which are basically volunteers across 36 states and the FCT, about 1,410 people. So we have state officers who directly are the ones that go to track these projects, and the state officers collaborate with community champions. So for areas, for instance, we've had even in Katsina, in Kebbi, in some places that insecurity very rife in some local governments. people who live there who are community champions that we trust, because when we onboard, there's a lot of onboarding going on and some periodic trainings. They are the ones that give us this information. And some ways we verify this information to know that, okay, yes, this is correct, then that is what we use. So the way we are even, the structure of our work is to have a situation whereby we don't have state officers anymore, that it is the citizens who are going to be the ones doing this tracking, doing this feedback, and doing this reporting. And all we will just do is just give them that platform to be able to put. So we just recently revamped our mobile app, and it is currently on iOS, on App Store, and on Play Store. It's called Tracka Mobile. So if you download the app and you pick your state and your local government, you are going to see the projects, the federal government projects around you in your state and in your local government. And you can click on a project and give a comment and also add pictures to say, oh, this and this and this is the update. And also we have a place where you can submit needs. So if there's something that your community or your local government needs, you can just put out the information supported by pictures, or if you don't have pictures, that is also fine. And we will take it up and send it to the stakeholders. We are also working on onboarding government officials to use the app, and they will come on as government officials. So when there are updates or projects or needs that come from people in their communities or their local government, they are going to be seeing it directly and they can action on them.
No, we're just all on the app. Like if I have my app, I can go to my village, I can look for the nearest federal project in my local government, go there, take pictures, track it, and just control I can do that myself.
Yes, you can do that yourself.
That is very important, folks. So you can do that. Guys, I'm going to let people speak. I know a few guys have been waiting to speak. But last question I do have, before I let you guys speak, I'm looking at the chart here. It says total education spending per capita. Number one state is Niger State. The last state here is Yobe. I can understand Yobe insurgency, but the second last state is Ekiti. How does Ekiti State, with the number of professors in quotes they say they have, be the last state in the federation that spends on education per capita? And then, of course, Niger State, prop to them, that are number one state in terms of total education spending per capita.
Right? And I remember with Ondo State last year, it hit them like a bomb, when we had, released the data to say that they were spending less than 400 naira per capita on education and healthcare. And after, the reports, and this is credit to the states, they reached out to see how, they will be able to prioritize these things more. But what I got from, the sense I got from all of that conversation was that the states were not really paying attention to the impact of these their decisions on indicators like this. And so the more we put this in their faces, the more they are able to pay attention to this and are more deliberate about allocating resources to areas, that to a large extent will improve the lives and livelihood of the people that they serve. Because a lot of times they are not able to draw these linkages, when they are, when the whole decision making is happening and around resource allocation. And so I don't think it will be different in the case of ATT.
So
where it's with the benefit of hindsight that they will now see that, of a truth, what we actually spent in a year, per capita was this. So that would be my response to that question. So it has nothing to do with, what individuals have been able to achieve.
Gotcha.
As indigenous of that particular state, but more with what the government at hand, or the present or the sitting government, right, is able to do with regards to prioritizing, the very meager resources of the states in areas that have the potential to improve the lives and livelihoods of the people they serve.
Gotcha. Point well taken. Let me throw the floor open now to folks that want to ask questions. Thank you so much for waiting. I know a few of them waiting. Okwe, you've got the floor. Please go ahead, sir. Mr. Okpa, did I get that right? Please go ahead, sir. You've got the floor. Go ahead. Or if you're not ready, I'm going to get free. Is that free? What's this?
So, Carl, if I could get one of our team members, Yano, maybe he would request to speak about golf spend. One of our solutions that complements Tracka.
Tracka and I think Ini are hosts. You're a co-host. I'm going to make you guys co-host so you can just bring them on board.
I go ahead and
yeah. And if you request then, so let us get let me get free the gray bee. The gray bee, if you can go ahead and unmute yourself. So sorry, I have to read names. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you so much, Talu. Hello, everyone. Hi, Mr. Show. Hi, Mr. Ini, Tracka, Ayo, and the rest of the listeners. So I work with BudgIT. So I'm just here to provide support and maybe just give a little bit of more context. Just like Ini said, your question relating to the curiosity, your curiosity as to why Ekiti wasn't spending that much on education. So a lot of states, I think, are not, or state governors have a challenge. And this was something that was said, almost explicitly by the chairman of the Nigerian Governors Forum during the Just Health State of States. You have political considerations as to where your money ought to go. Are you going to try to please your, in quotes, loyalists and, lobbyists and people close to you, or are you going to please the people in general? Are you going to prioritize investments that have long-term horizons, or are you going to prioritize investments that have short-term horizons? And really, it's been coming up in the comments you and Ini and Mr. Libinda have been making over the course of this conversation. But I'd like our listeners to really understand that these are essentially political questions. Every decision that a governor takes or does not take relating to infrastructure, education, health, water, sanitation is a political decision. And ordinarily, state houses of assembly, who are the ombudsman or the oversight body, ought to query and critique this. They should say, looking at school enrollment, looking at infant mortality, we see that our state is either falling or rising. Why are you not doing X? But these conversations usually never arise because of the nature of politics in Nigeria. So I think I'll just leave it at that. Thank you.
Excellent. Good point. Good point on that. Let's get let me just read the name, but Bolarewa, did I get it right? Yano Bolarewa, you got the floor? I think that's Bolarewa, right? Yeah.
Yes, you got, you tried.
I apologize.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. My name is Yano Bolarewa. I head the BudgIT department for BudgIT. And very quickly, I want to say thank you very much for doing this, for giving us the, lending us your platform to also speak about the things we've been very passionate about, and also the work that we do, right, in ensuring that transparency and accountability is the bane of governance. And one of those tools that we use to ensure that we get transparency and accountability in governance is the GovSpend platform. Just like Mr. Sean said, I complement the Tracka platform. And what this does basically is to show you exactly what the government is spending on projects. Either was paid to an MDA, either was paid to an agency, either was paid to a private contractor, either was paid to a business, what have you. Basically shows you, these transactions and allows you to be able to track them. And currently, one of the things that we're trying to do is to try and see, part of the analysis that we've done is to analyze how much exactly is going to private-owned companies, how much is going to individuals, how much is going to, how much are the contracts that are being done without descriptions. Because, we've seen a lot of things even as towards payment by the federal government. And one of the things that, makes this very interesting is that Currently, we are even doing a fellowship program where we have 12 journalists, using strictly resources on the platform to tell investigative stories. So they follow the story from how much was paid to understanding who exactly are the beneficial owners of these organizations. How are the tax company, where their due process in place when this particular contract was being done? Because we understand that from some of the things that we've seen, and an example of that, which I'm not trying to say, is there is a particular family that has been, taking just the printing contracts of the government in different four companies, just one family. By the time you unravel the network of ownership by these companies, you realize that sometimes it takes you back to square one, right? But then, one thing that makes this interesting is because from the section of, the Open Treasury platform, where we get all the data sets that goes to the government platform, what we've seen is that they also have started paying more attention. For example, where we had 20% of, payments that had no descriptions from the last analysis went down to close to just having 5% of those payments without having description. So what we've seen is that people are starting to pay more attention to these things, and they're starting to ask more questions as towards how their funds are being spent. And one thing that a lot of people always ask us, how do you maintain so much data sets that it doesn't get confusing? What we've done is we've aggregated platforms where you can directly draw from that platform, analyze the data, use the data for anything you want to do. And to get this platform, all you just need to do is go to www.govspend.org. So what we're trying to do with that is just to let people know that there is a place where you can see how much government is paying from not just being a budget, but going to payment as it were. Thank you very much.
Good point. Good point. I thought on that principle, family takeover of states. We hear that all the time. So good point. King Arthur, you've got the floor, so go ahead. King Austin.
All right. Thank you very much, Carlo. This is a beautiful platform. I was really, really, really heartbroken when I heard the other speaker speaking about the primary health centers, the state they're in, and how governments prioritize other needless, so to speak, projects, and leave primary health centers in disarray. But I wanted to, I would like to ask a question along that line, and I would need more education. I would like to know who is responsible for primary health care centers, and what is it that we can do to ensure that primary health centers are developed. I'm from Imo State and from Owerri in Imo State, and my primary health center is in shambles, completely in shambles. And I've been trying to get answer to this question: who is responsible for primary health centers, and what can be done to ensure that a local government like my place does not have just one but multiple that are functioning. Thank you very much.
Great. So, Ini, you want to take that? He's asking who is responsible. Isn't that the federal government? Federal medical. Does it have federal in front of it, or who wants to take it?
I can bring it. For the primary healthcare centers, we have state government being responsible for that. Right, for the primary healthcare centers in the state. Because the federal medical centers are directly under the federal government, which is where you have the FMCs and all of that. Then the state hospitals and the general hospitals are run by the state government as well. So basically, the federal government the MPHCA right now is in charge of reading out policies and also ensuring that state governments comply to these things. But in terms of taking care of those primary healthcare centers, they are basically the responsibility of the state government.
So that's the question, Kigata.
Yeah, hello, if I could just come in on.
Sure.
Yeah, so he was asking what can be done. The idea is that when you have primary healthcare center that is directly under the purview of the states. Maybe you would have the local government being in charge of providing personnel, but it is overwhelmingly under the authority and scope of the states. The State House of Assembly, the executive secretaries of the various primary healthcare development agencies or primary healthcare boards, these are institutions. The executive government himself, the commissioner for health in the states, these are the people that should be approached, that should be questioned. Speak to your representative. I think it's high time we need to have real life discussions about what to do. Yes, we can talk about these issues, but going into the field, what is it like? So that because oversight is joined by the State House of Assembly, monitoring and oversight, that's one place to start. The State House of Assembly, you're elected representative, the chairman of the health committee, for instance. These are people you can write to. You can come under a group of concerned individuals or go through civil society organizations that are working on health projects in your area. And you can even float a private member's bill or a private bill to increase the number of primary healthcare centers in your state. But these are the points of contact, if I would say. These are the starting points where citizens need to ask questions, or to whom citizens need to ask questions, and from where any traction can actually occur. Thank you.
Super. Good call, guys. Good call. Let me get Ro in here. Ro, go ahead.
All right. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to lend my voice. And thank you, BudgIT, and the crew for what you're doing, tracking the the expenditures, revenues of states all across the country. I think my 2 cents here is I'm not an economist. That's a disclaimer, so I don't claim to know anything pertaining to that. As a citizen of the country, I think I'm more concerned basically about how we want to practice the American system of government, and we do not practice it to the letter. I've never seen a state in the United States going to the federal government every month to panhandle, to beg the federal government to give them like a salary, a wage, like we do in Nigeria, which I consider as feeding bottle federalism. We have to truly practice federalism so that everybody can sort out their own resources. Like their own revenues and things like that. But I think that's just the holistic part of it. What I'm really concerned about also is the fact that majority of the state governments are not responsible. Because of political expediency, once they get into government, the first thing they do is to take care of their cronies by like Ondo State, for instance, just bought how many SUVs for the state legislators. The same thing at the federal government. What do they need those cars for? That money could have been diverted into something else, like what we're talking about, the primary healthcare center, the education from primary, secondary to tertiary institutions. You don't have money, but you're buying SUVs of $34 million per legislator. What are we doing? These are questions that are being asked over and over again, that we have misplaced priorities as both state, federal, and local government. So if we do not take all these things into account and reevaluate how we govern ourselves, we'll definitely come back over and over again to talk about this malaise, this inefficiency of government.
Yeah.
You're doing a good job tracking all of those things, but I want you guys to also, intensify your efforts in calling them out more often than what you're doing currently.
Yeah,
Because
Ro.
that's the only way we can get to the bottom of the matter. We don't have Nigeria is a poor country.
It's well said.
We don't have it.
Well said.
So,
well said. No, I mean, what else, I'm on your side. I mean, imagine if we didn't have these guys, if we didn't have Tracka, we didn't have BudgIT, we didn't have all these folks on social media, we didn't have Twitter. Imagine what would have been happening. Today, we know we're trying to buy SUVs because of social media. Now, we're going to second step to even say, let's even track the allocation. In the past, what were budgets? You allocate the budget, post spend the money, it goes. Nothing happens. Years ago, we had the Gulf War windfall. They said it was 12 billion. No one knows because no one tracked it. No one has any report. There's nothing. Today, it can happen. At least we'll know what was spent. We can just go to OPEC online and get what Nigeria and we don't have to wait for Nigerians. So we're going from that darkness. There's light in the tunnel. There's FOI now. I think citizens are using social media to do good. This is doing good. This is basically social good. This is our own quote unquote way to protest. If you don't have money, at least spend on the poor. Everyone is greedy. In the United States, remember in the United States, Congress had a sting operation by the FBI where they were buying hammers for $1,000 and bolts for like $1,000 as well. And the FBI went to Congress, did a sting on members of Congress and exposed it, and sort of it's died down. So Nigerians are not more corrupt. It's just that in the West, their institutions are a bit more powerful. You can't really just go as a congressman there and then pass some budget and just take the money and put in your fridge. They will arrest you. But here it seems that there's this immunity of consequence. You do whatever you want to do, nothing happens. So you do it again, and you keep doing it again until something happens. So I'm on your side, sir. Thanks so much for commenting. Doge, I've got you, sir. eBay Doji one, eBay Kemed. Doji, yeah, go ahead, sir. Good evening. How you doing, sir? Go ahead.
What? I'm very fine. Thank you very much. I've been following for a while anyway, and I don't know if you can help me here. Mine is more or less a question centered on Anambra State and Anambra State. If I read the report with budget, Anambra was generated 32 billion, if I'm not mistaken. Bearing in mind that Anambra State has the biggest market in West Africa, if not in the whole of Africa, if not in the world, on the chart. And then we have Green, we have Busi, and also bearing in mind that we also have the biggest car manufacturing company in Anambra State and generating 30 billion. What do you think is the case here? Because I think that's a busy money. Is it in the collection or maybe the accountability? What do you think possibly is the issue here? Which I think is very profound for the generating 2 billion. Maybe a whole year. This is what made us make possibly, let us make transfer from that in a month. Before somebody was talking about the seaport, because this is always the argument the excuse people always bring. Anambra State is nearer to seaports than most southwestern states, apart from Lagos and Ogun. Every other state is nearer to a seaport than Anambra State.
Yeah.
And the whole northern states and possibly some southern states are even farther to a seaport than Anambra State. So that excuse of seaports is dead. So please, what do you think will be the problem and how do we solve it? How do we start putting governor Anambra governor's account, bringing them to book?
I mean, I got you. The experts are here. The experts are here, but my take is IGR is a record of the inefficiency of the government, not the record of the wealth that could be collected. So if you look at the IGR report, you see states like Yobe doing better than Anambra. Yobe is in a war zone, doing better than Anambra, Yobe. And this is not an insult to the folks in Yobe, but like you said, the largest market in Africa on nature is in Anambra, Nnewi. So how can Yobe be doing more than Anambra? But Yobe is more efficient in collecting IGR. That's what's going on. And what is this efficiency? What is IGR? If you take away the pay that you collect from the salary, that's the easy one. You have got to track commerce and then tax commerce. So Yobe is able to track and tax commerce better than Anambra. And it's not rocket science. Anything paid in cash is lost. If you go to Anambra under bridgehead, what do you see happening there? They will stop people. Hey, pay your ticket. You give them cash, they give you sticker. Once it's in cash, it's lost. That same, you can have a little sticker QR code on every bus where the local government guy can scan your QR code and know if you have paid for that day. And that payment you can make that payment online to the state government. and you totally eliminate tout or sticker, just the QR code. The driver will wake up, scan his QR code, he makes the payment. Then as he's driving, local government guys just come, scan that same QR code and confirm he has paid. The difference, no cash. If you did that, you get $1 trillion in revenues across Nigeria. So IGR does not mean, and the reports are here, it's not, the reports are correct, but IGR tracks the efficiency of the government in that state to track revenues, to track commerce, and to tax commerce. It doesn't really track the wealth, because if it did, UB will not be hard in Anambra. I mean, I'm going to throw the floor to the guys in Tracka and folks in BudgIT to say what's their own take. He's asked the question, what's your own guys' own take as well?
I mean, you hit the nail on the head. It's not about the efficiency of the collection. So what usually happens is, I mean, once elections are there, won and lost, politicians try to consolidate power. And how do they do that? When you did this much for my elections, you're in charge of collection of revenues from this market. You mobilize boys, to really deliver inputs. Your word, right? You are the one in charge of this park.
That's it.
Once you do that, whatever is raised in those places, it's a way of settling those guys. But if you really wanted to collect revenues from those places, you have the entire instrument of states to mobilize, structures or frameworks to effectively and efficiently collect these revenues. But most times, the guys who collect, if you check, the guys who are usually maybe the park, the head of the parks or the head of the markets, they are multi-millionaires. They have their families abroad to be able to buy citizenship. They are living large. Some of them are billionaires at the expense of the state. So until you address that, these inefficiencies will continue to exist.
True. I mean, that's just that. Not more to add. Look at Lagos State. We say Lagos State has got the biggest IGR. I lived in Lagos State before, a long time when the army was there. One thing that Lagos State did well was this single college, this TSA thing. Lagos State did a long time ago, TSA type account, where even if you are paying for Lagos Water Works or you are paying for last month, you go to the bank and you pay. Before, Lagos was like Anambra, they collect cash, but now you go to the bank and you pay, and that was their way of letting it enter the bank. If it's in the bank, we can then track it. Once you collect cash for anything, whether it's in America or in Nigeria, that cash is lost. Once you collect cash, trust me. So once that cash is fungible, it can go anywhere. The IT today shows you can do your transactions without cash with SMS. Even without a bank, there's no excuse. Everyone has a phone. If you don't have a phone, you can do SMS. You don't have a bank account, you can make payments. So there is no excuse for any state in any local government to be collecting cash from anybody. None. It's just in case people want to sieve a bit of it and give to their friends. Basho, you've got the floor, sir. We've still got Tracka, we've still got BudgIT, and we're talking about the State of the States report. Talking about the report, you've heard them explain how they came about it, and we're trying to now ask questions if you guys have on how you guys can participate in the good work that they're doing. Basho, go for it, sir.
Good evening, sir. I really appreciate you and everyone. Tracka people are doing a wonderful job. I really appreciate each and every one of you. My question is this. Mr. Ini Hussein, sorry, if I mispronounced your name. The thing is this. I noticed when you said there is a problem with prioritization. Did I get that right? Prioritization of what should be done. Now, you notice a state that doesn't have good hospitals would gather money and build a church. A state that doesn't have good schools always has money to buy jeeps for traditional rulers, jeeps for House of Assembly members. Now, how can we really emphasize that priority should be priority? What should be priority? What priority? how to integrate it in such a way that, first of all, we don't care whether your revenue is big or small. Our hospitals must be in good shape. Our hospitals must be in good condition. Our schools must be okay. If you now have money left over, you can go buy a car. But you don't buy a car before hospital. You don't buy clothes for traditional ruler before fixing our schools. You don't go abroad for what is it called? Training before making sure that we have medical equipment. There should be a way of guaranteeing that everybody must do this before you can do this. I don't know if there's anything like that on ground to ensure that, because we don't keep making the same mistakes.
You're asking if what are you asking?
I want to.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Okay, I think I'd like to speak on that. And that's one of the reasons why we do not just prioritize project tracking. And one of the things we do is civic education. Honestly, it's a two-way thing. If a lot of times we've been going to communities, and many times politicians also invest in what they feel will buy them goodwill, one, and what they feel will get them re-elected. In the second way, people are also always looking for the quickest rewards they can get. So if you go to a community as a politician and you ask them, and we've seen a lot of instances like this, do you want a school? Or do you want us to renovate your health center? Or do you want an empowerment project where we can share some cash and share some grinding machines or so? I'm telling you, more than half of the people in that room will pick the empowerment projects. And that is why we've been seeing that empowerment projects take the cake when it comes to a lot of these things. Education and health, there are investments that they do not guarantee quick returns. There are investments that the returns might take more than 5 years before you start seeing it yield. And so that is not enough time for a politician. That is a long time for a politician who needs goodwill for either the next election cycle or at least needs something to keep him in the good graces of people. So I think another thing we need to do beyond just clamoring for the government to prioritize the spending, the government also wants something that will keep them in office. So if there is a what is it called? If there is a joint voice of citizens that this is what we want, trust me, it will actually be done. They are going to prioritize that request. That is why you see that there's a lot of funding for traditional leaders, for recently religious leaders. Why? Because they know these people hold sway. They hold sway over what the community thinks and the decision of the communities. So they try to buy them. If the people did not have power, politicians will not try to be settling, in quotes, traditional leaders or community leaders or what have you, or youth leaders. So it is what the people are asking for that they will give. If they see that your community is requesting for this, they will give you this. If your community is requesting for that, they will give you that. We have a situation in Ebonyi. I think the place is called, I don't know how to pronounce it, Amaobusi or something, where the community had been suffering from, they had a very bad road network for many years. And in this last election cycle, we had to educate them that this is something that you have to tell your elected leaders that this is a priority or you're not going to vote for them. It was a two-way thing. If we tell this politician that you have to give us this or we will not vote for you, what if we still don't vote and it comes in? It's going to neglect our community. But they still took their chances. And the politician actually answered them. They gave them the road. So we try to say that even as citizens, a lot of times we are short-sighted, and it's also maybe because of the prevalence of the poverty rate. I'd rather pick something that I get right now, maybe a 5,000 naira cash or a 10,000 naira cash, over renovating a health center where I'm not getting where I'm not directly getting a reward. So there's this need for re-education, constant re-education. It's a big problem, but I think that clamor also has to come from the citizens. It is what the citizens demand that the government is also going to prioritize. Thank you.
Good point. Is if you don't talk, if you don't put pressure, they will build airport. If you put pressure, they'll put water pipes. You want water, talk that you want water. If you don't, they'll build their airport. Chuma, you've got the floor, sir. Go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Carlo Aja. It's a nice space. I'll have to comment for starts. Beautiful work you're doing out there. Especially given we've all been advocating for some level of transparency in the affairs of the government. Yeah, I listened to Bashir's submission. I also listened to the response from Tracka. First of all, let me start by appreciating you, Tracka. This is something we needed. This is something we urgently needed. Decentralization of demands on the Federal Republic or on the government of the Federation is usually burdened. You understand, Nigerians just go out most of the times to cry to the Federation rather than actually looking into their state, looking into their local governments, and the grassroots, etc. So yeah, this is very, very welcome development because it opens up a whole lot, in terms of little details that we often overlook as people. We now know who to address, who to question. You can also, with the live feedbacks or the prioritizing updates on feedbacks regarding projects that have been awarded. The people can actually give scores with regards to this and particularly know whom to question should things go south. So that's one very, very credible advancement. Then, as regarding what Basho had asked, I'll still have to take us back to the rule of law. I think if the rule of law is more rigid, is more steady, more practicable, then a whole lot of misappropriation will be put into check. Yeah, and another thing, as Tracka had mentioned, is the concerns of the people. You actually have to be indicating where it's pinching you for, people to be aware, yeah, it's pinching you here and we need to address it. You understand? So yeah, that's very, very necessary. Sensitizing, educating. It's just so sad, like Tracka had given us facts regarding that education is not usually prioritized because people look forward to returns. And to be honest, we've been at education for quite some. And you look at the Nigerian system and you ask yourself, how many graduates can they actually handle? How many graduates can they actually engage? So most times when you come up with education, it's like something that's not of priority, while in real sense, it actually is key priority alongside healthcare. Yeah, so I checked out that screenshots from the Tracka page.
Chuma, let me get you to land. Chuma, go ahead.
Yeah, okay. I checked out the screenshots from the Tracka page and I saw projects, that are ongoing. For instance, I saw education, empowerment programs for people regarding fishing, boat operation, and things like that. Yeah, that's pretty cool, but it's also going to be real nice if we can get feedbacks on this project. You see, most times in Nigeria, to be honest, news are not usually complete. It's always news, and then follow-ups are very, very minimum. It's like a situation where we need news, and then we actually have to fix dates with people and call them back and say, hey, we fixed the dates with you. How far with this project? Like, what have you achieved in terms of betterment for livelihood of people in the federation? So yeah, I will commend. But then, yeah, we need feedbacks. We need recurrent updates regarding matters, not just updates at where they stand, but physical effects. regarding standard of life around where they've been implemented, advancements and so on and so forth. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you. Good points there. I hear you, Chima. Thanks for following up. Guys, we've got about 30 minutes to go. I'm going to let the Tracka guys go enjoy their weekend. So about less than 30 minutes to go, and then we'll call it today. So let me get Ahmed. Ahmed, you've got the floor right here. Go for it. Ahmed, are you an old boy? Looks like you're an NMS guy. Ahmed, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you very much. And for giving me the opportunity to speak. Really appreciate it. Yeah, it's been a wonderful session. Enjoyed hearing from Mubarak and Yolua himself, giving some very insightful details about how the project and project has been allocated and all. So my own question is this, because I'm more of a, I'm more of an advocate of states, developing their own, governors developing their own states, particularly because if we really pay attention to the states, we know that that's where most of the collective efforts are meant to be experienced. But we are not paying attention to these states. And sometimes if I see people comment, I'll just be laughing. We are joking with a lot of things. Now, my own question is it that because I will say something, and what Tracka said earlier, that people believe that, okay, education, health are long-term projects, and people always advocate, like, okay, it's something I want to see now, immediate result. I know people are always like, okay, I want to get it done. What can I get from this, political or whatsoever right now? Because I can tell for a fact that something actually, for instance, I know a colleague of mine, I grew up in Lagos, I'm a Lagosian, that, we never even have any tendency to work in the state government whatsoever. But something actually put us on the line, and I can vouch for almost 20 people, 10 people who actually went through the secondary school and, proceed to the state university across Nigeria institution. All they need to is, maintain a good rate and they get paid for their school fee. Just for them to, focus on their study and really come up with good rate. As long as you can come up with good rate, you have the tendency to really key into something that will be beneficial for you and your family. Because I can tell, for instance, that throughout my, university, days, every year, annually, I get paid. During my time, that was almost 200,000. It's more like a reimbursement as long as, you get it on merit, you do exams, and that is for the state indigents across all the federation of Nigeria, as long as you are a Lagosian. Let me tell you, this simple act is a long-term investment. The governors or the state government doesn't have to go and meet the people to know that this is what they need to do. We fail to understand something now, that the tendency by many politicians knows that these people, they know the weak point of the people. They don't even need to go to that place. Yeah, they can actually ask, but they need to be, visionary themselves about certain projects they have to bring to a place, what particular things the people need and what would really develop that place. And I can tell you, for instance, in most of the community now, that you can virtually see or have someone, one graduate in every household who is doing fine, who is trying to pull the second person in that family out. So it's more of, I still prioritize human development even far better if government can be able to put more effort in terms of that human development.
All right.
I believe that so many things will change. So how are these people planning? What are the templates by which they are going to use to run each of the states? We can't just have governors,
Ahmed, I want to be sure I get your Ahmed. I want to be sure I get your question. Are you asking the template for the governors or the elected? Just to be clear, just if you could give me one.
Exactly. Thank you very much. Now, before this is what they want to do and what has been done in the state. So what are their own,
But is that for us to answer? Is that for?
Are they following what they've actually outlined, or after getting in, they just discard whatever they have in mind and start doing whatever that doesn't benefit the people whatsoever? So thank you.
Okay. What I got from that was in terms of tracking their promises. I'm sure if I got that right. If the governor says I'm going to build the road as a promise, and he gets into office, I don't usually look at promises. Look at the budget he has said he implements, or the budget he formulates to implement his promise. If you don't see that, that's the first thing that you know. Okay, this is already off. If you compare, I'll be specific to you. If you compare go and download the whole agenda of the president, compare what he said about the economy. We did a space on it, we wrote about it. Compare that with the budget that has been released right now. There's no correlation with the building huge housing stock, with the decoupling the benchmark from the oil price. It's so different what was in the Hope agenda and what's in this budget right now. So maybe that's what you're saying, but I'm just agreeing with you that you have to hold people to account at the very beginning. If people get away with saying things and not doing it, we suffer. So in a way, I'm agreeing with you. Noni, you've got the floor, Noni. Linus Noni. Hey, go for it. We've got about 15 minutes to go. Go ahead, sir.
Good evening, all. Thank you for this opportunity, Tracka. I always visit the website, and you guys are doing a good job. And I would like to talk about somebody talking about Anambra State, because I'm very familiar with the state regarding the IGR. Well, I think we need to understand that politics actually is different. It's a game on its own. Like for the case of Anambra State, Anambra State is one very funny state. I remember visiting, and I was holding a bag, and somebody actually walked up to me and said I had to pay for holding a bag. I never believed that could happen in Nigeria. But I got to understand that there are different ways politics are being played in each state. Like, for example, now in Anambra State, there are certain people that own certain markets that collect revenues from those markets. And those people have boys that work for them. Now, when it comes to elections, those people that collect those money, I can bet you that they are always the first people to go to polling units to vote. They attend meetings because that's the source of living. So any governor that comes in actually knows that this is how these things work. This person can deliver an order for me. If every governor knows that he's not a good thing, people are collecting money from the road, but he wants to win re-election. So for Anambra's IGR to actually shoot up, then trust me, a new government has to come in place, because there's a systematic order in the state that
Question
this
for you.
particular person owns here, this person owns here.
Question
If you
for
are
you.
coming into
Question for you.
Hello?
Question for you. Question for you. Just people are asking me, right? When Peter Obi was the governor, did this happen?
When Peter Obi was the governor?
Yeah, did this happen? This payment?
Yes, when Peter Obi was the governor, people will always collect. People, right from time in Anambra State, people have always been. It's an order. Peter Obi was in Abga. It's an order. People have always been collecting. If you carry now go to Onitsha, maybe you carry 2 bags and you stand.
No, I'm asking about. No, Noni, I'm asking about how the parks pay the folks in power. That's what I'm asking about. Not I know about the tax union and NHR for working. You have to pay poll tax. I get that. I'm asking that when Peter Obi was the governor, were people going around motor parks to collect money to give to the government?
Yes, people were going around collecting money in parks, especially in Onitsha. I'm very sure of Onitsha. People were actually collecting money, because to fight, I always tell people, to fight a system, it has to be, sometimes it has to take a very strong will. In Edo State, there was an incident like that. When the governor actually destroyed somebody's hotel. It was actually one of those people that collect taxation. So it has to come, a very strong-willed person has to be able to, they might stop that system. And that sometimes some governors don't have the will, because in as much as you're trying to take that, you are still thinking about re-election. Then for the other one,
when we're talking about prioritizing healthcare and every other thing, I think it's the mentality of the people. I've actually played village politics, and I remember having a meeting where we had to donate to build a health center or to build a church. And I can tell you, Kaluza, I was the only person that wanted a health center. Every other indigenous in that place wanted a church. They just wanted a church. They didn't. I'm telling you about a village that you have to give birth, you have to travel to another village, like how difficult it was. But the people wanted a church, and actually a church was being built. And it's actually because it was just a health center, not a big hospital, with just very few facilities. The project, the health center was actually cheaper than the church.
But Nani, I'll ask a question. Why would you offer people a choice between a church and a health center? Don't you know if you choose, if you don't let me land. I'm not. I know.
General village meeting, and they actually said they wanted to build a church.
I got you. I got you. I'm not saying you offered. I'm not saying you offered. I'm saying that if you tell a Nigerian church or money, if you choose money, you're a devil. So it's a wrong choice. I'm just making a joke right there that if you ask any Nigerian to choose between church and going anywhere, if you choose the other option, that means you're a devil worshiper. So it's in a way, if you had said school or waterworks, but to include church, everyone, it's like when they get married, they tell the girl to go and take one thing. They put dollars, they put orange, they put yam. They say, go and pick one thing. The girl will go and pick Bible from the whole pile. You know, if you don't pick Bible, why are you saying that your marriage is not going to be under the, you know? So, go ahead, please. Yeah.
Exactly. So sometimes it's the mentality of the people. It's actually what sometimes, especially the people in rural areas, they have a different mentality from people in the urban areas.
But let's drill this down. But Lagos State, right, has more of an entrenched parks. This should we see this Agboro parks collection thing? And in a way, they cleaned it up a bit to where it is now. I still insist that if you use technology, because who is paying? The people are paying. If you use technology, you can get around this motor park, whatever. Like I said, there's little QR code where you receive all payments. I'm not saying you should not pay. You can actually tell the person that you can pay, but you can get 10% or 20% of whatever is collected. You can do that. But the point is that we all know that 90% is gone, not even 10%. So that's my point. Agree with the collector. Okay, if you collect 1 million, we'll give you 10% or 20%. That's enough for you. But to say Yobe State is making more IGR than Anambra State, on the face of it, is a joke, and we all know it. So that's it's for Anambra to fix that.
It all boils down to the governor. Because like in Edo State, the IGR, you have a specific set of people that will issue you your ticket.
Okay.
You have another set of people that will like be monitoring you. So it's working effectively. So I think it's just the governor's will to be able to, for an IGR to go up, it's the governor's will to take it higher. If there's no will, there's no will.
And tech. Using tech. I mean, we have tech, so use tech. Perfect. Thanks so much, guys. Thanks. We're almost running up. I've got think right. Your hand is up, so go ahead. We've got about. Go ahead, think right, and now we'll run on the floor for the. Think right is not for. Go ahead. Your audio is very low, sir. Think right. Fix that. Let me get Ugo. Ugo, go ahead.
Oh, okay, thank you. Yeah, thank you very much. It's my first time on this space. I'm really happy to be here. I'm always happy to talk about the country I come from. First of all, I would like to just make a few comments and then ask a few questions. But I'll be very brief. First of all, is the role of insurance in the Nigerian economy. Would it make sense at this point, seeing how businesses are collapsing and closing, to actually look at recapitalizing the insurance industry to see how we can mitigate some of the challenges that businesses are facing, and of course to free up capital for other things. That's one. Secondly, I'm also looking at the possibility of accountability. That is not within our power, but I think, well, to a large extent, if we can get more Nigerians to get involved with, I won't say politics, although you cannot separate politics from the economy. That's why it was political economy before now. The truth is, if we don't get the politics right, it will be very, very difficult to get the economy. And how do we get the politics right? The way things have gone in Nigeria now, we cannot abandon the country. We just have to keep doing our best. And how do we do our best? I think we should create a mechanism to let the political class know that they have to be accountable to the people. They have to make sure that the public office is held for public good. Okay, I don't know when last politicians sat together to talk about the average Nigerian. I don't know when last they sat together to ask themselves, how do we pull people out of poverty? And when I say that, I mean genuinely, because most Nigerians are actually worried about how not to get killed or how not to eat, and or how to put food on the table, than they are about more important things like health and education and the other things. So how do we begin to improve the quality of life and then create new realities for our people? That is what politicians do in responsible countries. So
to be honest with you, Ugo, to be honest with you, Ugo, right? I think politicians everywhere are the same. I've never seen a political system. In America they collect bribes. The politicians in America collect bribes. Politicians collect bribes. They get into office, quote unquote, average guys. They leave multi-millionaires. But the difference, I think, again, is the institutionality of how America works. How, if you are caught with dollars in your agbada on video, you are done for. That's the difference there and here. You can collect lobbying. You can take lobbying, which that's the way they call their own bribes. They call it lobbying, right? But if you are caught with dollars in your fridge, you are done. Here you can be seen. They said if you show us a video of people taking money from the CBN, we'll see vote for them. Who said it? Was it? What didn't say it? It was the voters that said it. If you show us a video of the guy taking dollars from and the guy true went to CBN and took 23 trillion, Abby, because you guys told him that. So I don't think the difference is if you do stuff there, you are done for. Here, you are not done for. So if I was a politician, why wouldn't I print 23 trillion? If I'm the president tomorrow, I will print 100 trillion and start to spend. You guys can be crying. I will spend it in this, then arrest me that I didn't build the road, but I'll build the roads and the rest. So this is the thing about Nigeria. We want to copy, but we don't have institutions. Today, I'm a bit afraid today in Nigeria. Is the day we arrest someone that has mouth. Then the guy will say, oh, but this person did this now. What happened to him? Oh, that person did this now. What happened to him? Then we'll start to say, oh, that was because of. I want to see what will happen. How we will unravel most of these things we have said are okay in the country. Where, the impunity is a disincentive. It's a disincentive. If you want to invest in a country where contracts are not, should we say, adhered to, where the political class can do and undo, it's a big, big, big risk for you, where you can invest money and tomorrow the government can create a new law, not even a new law, just close down the business by fiat. Why would you invest? And this is the point you're making on the second part, So is there insurance against government? So the insurance, when it's government insurance, I insure your business that if government passes a new policy, we will pay you back. That's a very, very good insurance policy to insure your business against government's policy. But apart from that, Nigerians don't buy insurance. We have life insurance, we have auto insurance. Nigerians buy auto because they were arrested by police. They don't buy life insurance. They prefer to pray and hope that they will not die. We are all going to die, but nobody buys life insurance. It's so simple. You're going to die at a certain age. Buy life insurance when you're younger. Once you buy life insurance, you instantly have that asset. Insurance is the only product that you can pay in Naira and get $1 million. Guaranteed. Guaranteed. But no one does it. Because if you buy life insurance, that means you are praying that you will die. And we don't pray that we will live in Jesus' name. And we laugh, but that's how we look at it. Don't write a will. Don't do estate planning because you are inviting a demon of death to your house by writing that will. So let us hold it. So we have to change a bit of the mind. It's not to hold the government accountable, but the individual Nigerian has got to be a bit more, we have to demand more, and our own selves, change our own selves. It's not enough to say government did this, government did that. Our own selves, what are we doing about ourselves? We are the ones that said, take the money from the CBN, we'll still vote for you. And they take the money from the CBN. So let's just get a last person in here.
Just 1 second. I'll just make one point. Just 1 point. FX issue. Please, FX issue. I think we should hold this space more. This is my first time. I don't know if they're ready.
We hold the spaces. We hold the spaces every Sunday, 7 p.m. West African time. All things being equal, next week we're going to do FX, we're going to do investment, we're going to do exports. All things being equal. Let me get the last thing. So I want to release the Tracka folks to go and just give it. So the last thing is going to be Agbo. What's it? Agbo 2. Go ahead, Agbo 2.
My name is Agbo.
Sorry.
When I was in school, we did a excursion to one country, small country called Bhutan, and they measured gross domestic happiness, not all these IGR things. And it was so fascinating as a finance team to see how when we start thinking about gross domestic happiness, the country financially develops better. So I'm from Delta State, so I was looking at that IGR thing, and I was saying, oh, well, look at Delta State. They didn't they didn't do bad. Then I looked at the debt, and my heart stuck. And I remembered gross domestic happiness. Delta State is arguably one of the states with the highest depressed people. So all those IGR we're seeing is just a bunch of cock and bull story. We are depressed in Delta State. Nothing works. No road works. I was looking at Tracka. Tracka doesn't even do much research in Delta State. Nothing absolutely works. So maybe IGR is not a good measure of things of economic development. Maybe we should start going to all these countries like in Bhutan to see how they measure gross domestic happiness to really aid development, because Bhutan is one of the fastest growing economies in Asia right now. I mean, it's a small country, but they are growing really fast because they've decided to focus on gross domestic happiness versus IGR. I just wanted to add that Delta State numbers, I think, is fake. I don't know, but maybe I'm just exaggerating it. But our debt is sinking us, and the mismanagement going there is like, it's sad. Anyways, I yield the mic.
Thank you. And not to pour water on your Bhutan comment, but I think that country where they do all this quote unquote, not trying, let me even say it, quite into trouble. But Bhutan is a unique country, small, tight knit, very esoteric. So I would understand why they would go the happiness route. I mean, GDP is one of the many ways you can measure economic growth. There's GNI, right? You can measure water supply, like Tracka has done, and sorry, the report has done. This state of state, they are focusing on health, and Ines did mention that looking at health and education as investment. I used to look at education as an investment and health as a cost. But Ines is saying, listen, health and education are really the stimulants, the things that you put into that pot that allow that state to then grow and develop. So when we have states like Ekiti not investing in education, that's what is coming up now. So I get your point completely, and I want maybe someone from Tracka can come up and maybe answer your point about Delta State not being tracked. Numbers from Delta don't look good. Lots of income, but I think they were number 3 in terms of on sustainability. The Delta balance sheet is not balancing. So I don't know if INI or Tracka or anyone from can just give us a point about Delta State, and then we'll maybe close the space on there. Anyone trying to come up? I would like someone from BudgIT or Tracka or INI or anyone come. Just give us an overview on Delta. No one taking it off. Going once. INI, thanks for unmuting.
The Nigerians in diaspora, it will probably be the same across board. I mean, the economy is biting hard on both the haves and have-nots.
That is true.
We're like a tight-knit community. There's heavy dependence on people who are the housing codes. So everybody is feeling it. But like you said, there are several measures to
I think you went off. Ines dropped off. So let me, Mr. Lucian, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so sorry, I didn't get a question.
I
Would you
think
mind repeating?
the point she was making was that she went to Bhutan and they were tracking gross domestic happiness. I think our overall point is that just focusing on GDP or IGR might not capture the full spectrum of how the society is living. I could have a very, very high GDP and be unhappy. Then she went specific that in Delta State, Delta folks are unhappy. They have a lot of revenue. IGR is high, but debt is high. She said Tracka is not really tracking Delta State. Those are her comments around that. Yeah. I've got Mr. Sean back. I've got you. If you want to take it up, please go ahead.
Okay, yeah, I mean, the issue is that, of course, there are several ways. I personally try to emphasize gross national income as a much better measure of economic
What's the difference?
development.
What's the difference? Tell us. Tell us the difference so we can follow.
Okay, so gross national income measures how much people earn, on average, how much is earned by, all the number of workers, labor output in a particular country, as opposed to gross domestic product that looks at. So these are very simplified definitions. Opposed to GDP that looks at how much has been produced and how much is worth.
Gotcha.
So I get, her issue with always looking at GDP, and to a very large extent, a lot of scholarship has been trying to move away from GDP. One of the reasons being that growth has been said to have a limit.
Yeah.
That's for a technical conversation another day. So the idea is for citizens to really define what they want, and this is what federalism was meant to answer. Someone mentioned this earlier, that what we practice in Nigeria is speaking about federalism. And if you think about it, if you look back at our history, you see that all the states in Nigeria were creations of military governments. They were not creations of civilian government. So for me, that's kind of interesting to say that would Nigeria be Nigeria today if we did not have, a military government that could create states by fiat? If we had to go through a constitutional process of creating states, this is not talk of like the Midwestern region decoupling itself from the Southwest, but the states as we know them today. So citizens need to be able to define for themselves what they want, what is their future, what is their destiny, and it's meant to be articulated through political parties. Political parties are meant to be aggregations of interests that taken a step further and vie for office, and act through appointments and what have you. So, in a nutshell, I guess I'm saying that how do Deltans see themselves? Where do they see themselves being in the next few years? And what type of politics, or how can politics answer that question? I think that's where the conversation needs to start from, whether it be through political parties, whether it be through campaigns, whether it be through advocacy. The issue is actually about aggregating interest and then going forward in that direction. I don't know if that answers the question. It's just a conversation starter for me.
I think it's a great conversation to have around there. She hits the points. Yeah, Mr. Sean is back on. I think he had something to add. Okay, so guys, we're going to call it a day. Sadly, I think we.
Sorry, I don't know.
Sean, go ahead. You've got the floor.
Yeah, well, I was just saying, I'm sorry, I just got another phone, so I've been struggling with
Is it an iPhone 15? You got the phone of the rich and powerful?
Yeah. So I'm just saying that thanks so much, Carlos. First, I want to thank you specifically for hosting the space, and I can believe that you've done great work converting our people to our cause. Our interest is simply that public resources should work for the people and it should improve the quality of life. That's just all our mission, and people should take the information and research and to hold accountable. I always envision that, we have like it has like 250 to 60,000 followers. I wish that more people can hear our message, follow the information we give, because that's only the way. I don't know we can build a working country. We know we have issues with elections, we know we have issues with legitimacy, but the only way is that whatever we have right now, we have to make it work for us, because you can see that
which such person can do in a short period of time. So I'm very clear that we need more voices on the room. And thanks so much for State of State. Please feel free to visit our website, the beautiful portal for State of State. It's a very interactive portal. You can visit it and so that you can learn more. We also all the links are shared in this space. Please follow the handles, Civic Eye, BudgIT, Tracka, and also the links for you to get more information. Please reach out to me or BudgIT Director Tracka for any information that you need. But thanks so much. It's been a stimulating conversation. I enjoyed it a lot.
Thank you, sir. Let me thank everyone of your team, from Tracka to you, to everyone that has come up here to speak and to answer questions. We do appreciate it. We have to be a data-driven, consumer, right? And we also have to be data-driven voters, and that's the whole idea. We have to move from the complaints, right, to following up these guys with data. You have been given money to spend. Where did you spend it? You have been given a plan. You said you're going to do this. Have you done it? Why are you not spending money on education when we have more money than the other state? Why is our state not spending money on schools and the other states in that region are spending money on schools? We have to ask these questions to the politicians. We can't get angry. We have to ask them and demand an answer. And when they don't answer, we go vote for someone else. That's how it should be. We've got to hold people to account. And it's always important that we hold people to account. So don't complain, don't say it's all over, don't despair, because in the end, it's only here. This is the only place we have, right? So that's basically it. So, guys, thank you so much for spending time with us this evening. Like I said, we're always here every Sunday, 7 p.m. We're talking money, the economy, personal finance, and we're also trying to make it personal to break down that language to how we can understand what's going on. We've had a lot happen all through the week. The forex, the plans that they have for the forex, the borrowing. Hopefully, we can talk about that as the months come ahead. But we also want to leave you with more information that you came into the space so you can have those conversations and perhaps share with decision makers that you know. So change can start to happen, right? We have to grab it and we have to change the narrative around the country. So Nando, thank you so much, BudgIT, Tracka, and the rest of the team. I appreciate you guys. Thanks everyone that has listened in today. I'll see you guys next week. Have a good one and bye.
Thank you so much, Kalu. Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Very welcome.
Thank you, Carlo. Thanks.